Hi, my name is Sam Newman and welcome to the Modern Software Engineering channel supported by our sponsors Equal Experts, Transfix and Octopus Deploy. Today I'm going to be taking a look at a particularly hot topic, namely to what extent do we need to look at the code our AI coding agents create. Our AI coding assistants are amazing at helping us produce more code than ever before, but a number of studies have shown that the ability to produce more code is often not translating into a similar improvement in the throughput across the software delivery lifecycle. Basically, we're writing lots more code, but we're not necessarily shipping more product. That's led many of us to question whether or not we need to re-examine what we do with the code our AI assistants create to make sure that we realize the full potential of AI-assisted code delivery. The implication of these studies is that the ability for us to create code isn't the bottleneck in our ability to ship quality working software. This is fundamental theory of constraints stuff. If creating the code isn't slowing us down, what is? Because there's got to be a bottleneck somewhere. In this video, I want to examine one part of the software delivery lifecycle which increasingly seems to be a major bottleneck for those using AI-authored code: the code review. Firstly, I'm going to take a look at why AI is making code reviews more challenging. Secondly, I want to take a look at the traditional code review process and what it's for, and whether or not that still makes sense in our new AI age. And finally, I want to talk about what changes we might need to make to how we create software and how organizations around the world are re-examining their relationship with the code we create to take full advantage of our AI agentic coding. So let's look at this problem of the growth of code, or more to the point, the fact that together with our AI coding assistants, we can create more code than ever before. Pharos's Acceleration Whiplash report from March of this year showed that the capabilities of AI coding agents is leading to the creation of more PRs than in previous years, and that those PRs themselves contain more code. Amongst teams with a high adoption of AI tooling, they found that over a 50% increase in the average size of PRs created since the previous year's report. And at the same time, developers are working on more threads of work simultaneously. Compared with the 2025 report, organizations with a high AI adoption are seeing a 64% increase in the number of PRs that a developer has to touch on any given day, with more work in progress at any other given time, and a higher cost associated with context switching. So we're creating more PRs, those PRs are bigger, and we're working on more of them simultaneously. So we seem to have a bit of a contradiction here. We're generating more code, and Pharos's report shows that. However, we don't actually seem to be shipping that much when we look at other reports and Pharos's own studies. In fact, Pharos showed that they're seeing a slower rate of throughput through the whole software delivery process. We're producing less than we were before for many people. Now, there are outliers. These are reports. After all, the Pharos's own report is a large-scale study, might not match up with your own anecdotal information, but we don't seem to be getting the benefits. So we're producing more code, but we're not necessarily shipping more code. Now, if you spent any time looking at something like lean manufacturing, you might spot what's going on here. When you have a lot of work in progress, although everyone is working hard and doing the best they can, the work in progress can gum the system up. If you've got lots of PRs waiting to be reviewed, you've got developers context switching, you're not getting through work very quickly at all. There's lots of stuff happening, but not much forward motion. It's like watching me swim. Lots of arms and legs flailing about, lots of water displacement, but no obvious forward momentum. Now, there might be a time for us to look at some of the other bottlenecks that might exist in the software delivery lifecycle, but today I really wanted to focus more at looking just at the code review process to try and understand what a code review is actually for, in traditional terms, and whether or not those goals that we're looking for stand up in the new world of software delivery. So if we were to examine what's happening around code reviews, we should probably be clear on what the purpose of a code review is. Your own exact goals may differ a bit, but there are generally four main goals that we're looking at for a traditional code review. Firstly, correctness. When we look at a piece of code and review it, this is hopefully providing a degree of confidence that the code does what it is supposed to do, both from a functionality viewpoint and maybe even from a security standpoint as well. Secondly, the purpose of a human-based code review is about shared learning. The person submitting the PR can get feedback from reviewers, which they can learn from. They might pick up a new trick, a new way of using an API, or a new pattern to use instead. This is very often reciprocal. I've learned a lot myself from reviewing other people's code. The third goal of a code review is to make sure that the change being made aligns to the strategy and the practices that we have in the organization. Does this code review change match the coding idioms that we use in the code base? Does it introduce a brand new pattern to solve problems that which we'd previously solve in a different way? Do we want to do this? Is the code and moving in the direction we want with, say, other architectural changes we might want to be making? And finally, the code review process can help us be more aware of what's going on with the code base as a whole. By reviewing what other people are doing, you feel a little bit more connected to the work that others are doing and get a sense of where we're all going together. So those are kind of some of the goals that we might have for a traditional code review process. The problem is, as we're increasing the PRs, which is increasing the amount of code reviews, the human review aspects of the PR processes are suffering from the strain. This is likely contributing to reports of developer burnout from people using a lot of AI tooling. I'm still waiting to see some of the reports that confirm whether or not this is happening at widespread, but we do have some early evidence to show that the use of AI is actually increasing the stress and pressure on developers rather than decreasing it. A recent Harvard Business Review article called "AI Doesn't Reduce Work, It Intensifies It" said many workers noted that they were doing more at once and feeling more pressure than before they used AI, even though the time savings for automation had ostensibly been meant to reduce such pressure. So we bring AI in to reduce pressure on us, but it actually just ends up increasing pressure on us. The Whiplash report I mentioned earlier saw a 225% increase in the amount of time tasks are spending being in progress. You've got more things in progress, developers switching between those things the whole time. Rather than AI helping us do more work, it seems to be giving us more work to do, more plates to spin. To deal with the challenges which these growing numbers and size of PRs create, more and more firms are using AI tools to help them review the code, and which was in turn, of course, code that was written by and large by AI. So now we have code that's written by AI, being reviewed by AI. So what's the role of the human again? Let's look again at the purposes of a code review. We're in the world where the code is being written by AI and then will subsequently be modified by AI. Do we still get the same benefits from a human-based code review process? So let's start with the first goal of a code review, correctness. We look at a code review to get a sense of, is it correct? Is it right? But is a human going to be able to confirm correctness with a manual review of code? I'm not sure this ever was the case. It's going to be even less possible now that we've got more and more code. Secondly, shared learning. Can I give feedback in a review process that improves the AI coding agents? Agents don't learn like humans. We can't impact the training process of the next generation of LLMs in any meaningful way during the review of a PR. The best case is that we can try and coax the agent into creating better code through maybe changing its context and its skills, but it's a profoundly different relationship to the one we have when we give feedback to a human. Alignment to strategy and practice. We care about some of this when we look at a code review that's written by AI, but really we're doing this at a much higher level now. Do we really care that much about code consistency, for example? I'm not sure that we do. And finally, awareness, working on what's going on around us. It doesn't really scale that well. We've got lots more large PRs. And in fact, an AI authored summary of the edits is likely going to be just as useful, if not more, at helping us understand what's going on than a manual human review of the code that's being written. So given the code review process as it stands today seems like a poor way to achieve those goals that a traditional code review did, perhaps we should examine again if we even need to bother with human-based code reviews anymore. So what am I suggesting here? Well, if our code is going to be written by AI, reviewed by AI, and subsequently modified by AI, why are humans reviewing the code? People are time poor. We all have limited time we can spend on things. One of the promises of AI was that it would free us from the drudgery of the mundane, giving us more time to spend on important things. Has this always delivered? Now, ChainGuard, a well-respected supply chain security firm, recently announced that they were stopping human code review, instead moving the effort into spending more time collaborating on the design decisions and the associated documents. More effort put into coming up with a collective vision for the changes that you as a team want to make is a good thing. Those design documents that come out of a conversation like that then becomes what drives the AI code creation. The effort and thought is going into what changes we want to make, but we're not checking the work of the AI by looking at its code. The idea of letting AI handle code creation like this in a more hands-off fashion is very similar to the small but growing space of dark factories in the world of industrial automation. Robotic factories which can run without any direct human involvement can just get on with the work. No lights are needed for the humans, hence the concept being called a dark factory. Many of the companies I've spoken to who are more advanced in their use of agentic AI coding are actively adopting this model for code. We instruct the dark factory what to do, but we don't get involved in the nitty-gritty. Outcomes changes to our product. Fundamentally, whether or not you are ready to consider ditching code reviews of your own AI author code comes down to trust. Do you trust your agentic AI development workflow enough that the code it produces is good enough to go into production? If you have confidence in your tools, your configuration, and importantly, your pre and post verification of the changes you're making, then maybe this is the next logical step for you to take. For many of you though, I suspect this is probably a step too far right now. But what if you could find some way to dip your toe into the water of dark factories without having to go all in? In a follow-up video, I plan to explore this concept of dark factories for code in more detail, looking at concepts on the role of robotics together with some fundamental architectural principles to see how we can take a more nuanced approach to how we develop with AI. But what do you think? Are you struggling with a volume of PRs you have to review? Have you considered a dark factory of your own? Or do you just think this whole idea of stopping human code review is just nuts? Let us know in the comments. It would be great to address some of your stories and concerns in a follow-up video. Whilst you're doing that, leaving us a comment, we'd love a like and a subscribe, and maybe take a moment to check out our sponsors, Equal Experts, Transfix, and Octopus Deploy. And wherever you are in the world, I hope that you're happy, healthy, and safe. Goodbye.